Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Deborah Jenkins, your host for Blk Tlk Platform. And I am so excited. I'm always excited, you know that. But I am so excited because today is March 1st, the 1st of March. And I've never been able to do a show on the 1st of March. And it's significant because this is the first day of Women's History Month. And guess what? I have someone who is my guest tonight, who I have known for many, many years, many years. And I admire her. She is so many things, but she is definitely a loyal friend. She is talented beyond the word talented. She loves the Lord. She loves his word. She's gone deep into his word to find out the best way to worship him, to give him praise according to what he desires from us. She is none other than my friend, my sister, Dr. Reverend Ouida Harding. Welcome to Blk Tlk Platform and happy Women's History Month to you, Dr.
Happy
Ouida Harding.
Women's History Month to you, Dr. Pastor Deborah D. Jenkins.
I'm so excited. People are coming in the room. Come on in the room. Hey, Tara, I've never seen you here before, but see, she ain't here for me. She's
Is
here
that
for
Tara
you.
Rambo?
Yes, it is. A songbird. I'm happy to see you, Tara. And of course, Juanita is here. Hey, Juanita. Juanita is such a great supporter.
Presley.
That is Juanita, my sister, Ouida's mentee, and Junius Williams. He's from up here with me. Hey, Junius. Hey, everybody, come on in the room because this is going to be such, to me, a historic conversation with Dr. Harding. Junius, I'm going to tell you something about Dr. Harding. I'm going to let her tell you. I'm trying to give him the connection to you up here in Co-op City, but we'll get into it. Look who's there, Ouida. Dr. Stephanie Minity.
Minity. You have got to get her on too. Oh, you have some winners on there. Tara Minity.
Oh my goodness. We're about to blow this place up. I'm so happy to see all of you coming in because this is indeed a special night for all of us. I tell you, I don't know one person who's going to be witness to you being here, Dr. Harding, and not be blessed. I just don't know. I don't know. But let me say something to you. She doesn't even know I know this. And I didn't find out because she posted. But yesterday was Ouida's dad's birthday. It's a heavenly birthday now. But I want to let you know who told me because her dad was a revered pastor in the village of Harlem for many, many years. And then you can correct me where I'm wrong. I believe I was told that he was the longest running pastor at the St. Luke Baptist Church in Harlem.
53
years. And when they did their opening ceremonies last year for their new sanctuary or going back into their sanctuary, they honored your dad. And you know who told me this? Pastor Shane Hilliard. And he sure did. And I told him, wow, I'm going to let her know you shared that with me. And that's how I've held your dad's birthday in my mind and forever now because it's the last day of February when we are not having a leap year, that your dad's birthday ends out the month of Black History Month. And so I wanted to honor you and your dad and your sister and by saying happy birthday to your dad, heavenly birthday to your dad.
My family, Walter, Vera, and Imra appreciate that.
Your brother, I forgot, right? Yeah. All right. So you're very welcome. Let's get into it. Now, let me tell everybody why I asked Dr. Harding to be my guest tonight. So Deacon Juanita Presley, my sister, she's like, we have not returned to public worship yet at Faith at Work Christian Church. We're planning to go back in for Passover Resurrection Sunday weekend. And so she's already got her wheels turning as to how music should look. That is nothing that we were doing, and I know I keep saying this to God's people, nothing that we were doing 2 years ago should be exactly what we're doing now post pandemic. And I say that, and I'm not asking for anybody's agreement, but I'm just saying if we didn't take these 2 years to grow in our faith, to get closer to God in a different way, and to do ministry a little different, then we've sort of squandered this time of pause that he's given us. So Juanita said, I have some ideas of how to do music ministry when we go back. In the meantime, before we talk, can you take a look at this? So she sent me a video where Dr. Harding had been teaching some pastors here in the state of New York about the very thing I said should be different, the way we do ministry. And ministry is not just about the pastor who preaches or the minister, the clergy, the person who preaches. It is the entire worship experience. And a huge part of that has to do with the music. So I'm listening to Dr. Harding and I'm taking notes. And as I'm taking notes, Dr. Harding, I'm sending the text to Juanita saying, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. She is sharing some things with these pastors that not only those pastors need to hear, all pastors need to hear. And not only do the pastors need to hear, the deacons need to hear. And not only do the deacons, the trustees, and the laity, we all need to get on the same page in terms of how we worship. And you were dropping some serious spiritual nuggets in that training. I want to know, I want you to actually share with us your transformative way of seeing worship and praise to our God. I know you can't share your whole dissertation, but can you just sort of summarize what it means to you as a person of faith for yourself, and how you have been actually helping churches transform the way they do music in their churches?
The one word I can pick up from my dissertation is standards. And I think that can I just be real?
Absolutely.
I think we in the Black church, we've taken advantage of the gift that God has given to us. And when I say our music, it was music, words hidden in the melodies of the music that helped us get from point A to point B. In fact, I was part of a Black History program last night with the Baptist Ministers Evening Conference. And what I explained was that why should the message be any different? Our messages gave the event, the direct, and what to expect. So if we were to take that same formula today, where is our music taking us?
Wow.
Another thing, and it doesn't ill me, it irks me when pastors say, we've heard the music, now it's time for the word. If we're doing this thing right, can't the word again music? I can give you the names of some people, some of them American, some of them not, who've heard songs and they've come to Christ based on the words of the song. True. And so my challenge to pastors is, if the songs that are going on in your congregation don't match the message that you're giving, something is not going right. Right. Another, in my workshops, Pastor Deb, there is this Dr. Lisa Weaver and I were talking. We were talking about how music should play a part in worship, and we've done this circle of, she calls it the cycle of humanity. I just call it whatever I feel like at the moment. But if you would think of four corners of a box and a circle in the middle. Let's say box 2 box 3 and box 4. In fact, remind me, and I'll send it to you. And anybody else who wants it, I'll send it to them.
Okay.
When people come to church, no, even before they come to church, let's go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Routine. Got to go to the store. Got to. I owe you the $1. Got to go to the doctors. Got to go to the PTA meeting. Sunday morning is box 2. You're sitting in church. It's almost like God is saying your body's here, but your mind is on the other side of town. Suppose God said, you've been messing me around. Okay, but the person is in the sanctuary. Box 3 is that same person who is just sitting in the sanctuary. Go to box 3. They are so ready to hear the word of God so that by the time they get to box 4, whatever is going to be before them that week. Our responsibility as music leaders, as pastors, as anyone who is in worship leadership is between box 2 and box 3. What we do should be so transformative till people are ready to receive, not just hear, but receive the word of God.
Right.
And so what should be different? Our different. How we are preparing people to receive the word of God so that they can meet whatever is going to happen to them that next week.
Yes, yes.
Here is the problem. In the Old Testament, when David first made the journey to bring the ark to Jerusalem, he messed up. And God killed Uzzah because Uzzah touched that ark. But what David did not do, the Lord. How many of us pastors don't consult the Lord?
Wow.
We just want someone to bring the music. The second time around, of course, David did what David needed to do. But it says in 1 Chronicles 15:22, King James Version, that Chananiah was chosen because he was skillful. In the NRSV, it says Chananiah was chosen because he understood. I'm a non-playing music leader who understands the Lord, understands following the vision of the pastor, than someone who was skillful and running through my congregation don't know nothing but when it's payday. I would rather have someone who understands what it takes for worship to happen. Now let's define worship.
Okay.
Worship is our response to God.
Yes.
That's the briefest definition. I'll go further. Is our response to God's initiative. Initiative meaning God made the first step. Let me go further. Worship is our response to God's initiative to humanity. God provided a way that we don't have to go to hell when we die. It's our choice. So worship is our response. So how are we responding? We respond through obedience, through prayer, thanksgiving, silence, praise. That's why I don't believe in praise and worship. We'll go to that one day. And stewardship, your time, your talent, your temple, your treasure. So how do we respond to God, and what are we teaching our congregation? The congregation should be able to follow the vision of the pastor. So should that music leader.
Right, right.
And if not, 49, 51 equals 100. 51% of that responsibility is on that pastor. Because if you're looking for the person who can keep the hype going, hype without substance is just hype.
Right.
So what should happen that we change not the message, if there is a true message coming in, because some of our pastors preach happy meals, but the method. Anyone who is in any type of leadership should always, the pastor should determine, what do I have? What do I need? Not what do I want? What do I need? Then discern, is this the right person to lead? Because everyone that you put in leadership does not have your vision at that heart.
Right.
Then Once you decide, you determine, you discern, then you make the decision. But it's all got to be in the will of God. And if it ain't in the will of God, it ain't gonna happen. That's
That's
why,
right.
as according to NRSV, Chananiah was chosen because he understood it.
Because he understood it. Mm-hmm. I'm typing. I need a scribe over here so I can listen too. Go on, Dr. Harding. She's frozen everybody. She'll be back.
Okay, so do you have your Bible? Can you get a hold of the Message Bible?
I can pull it up.
Pull it up. So if you were to go to Amos 5:21 to 24, and then go back to the question right before 24, that's how we change our method. And I dare to say that a lot of the stuff that we're doing is the reason why God is also asking us that question. He's speaking through the prophet Amos.
Amos
So
5 and what? I'm sorry.
5:21 to 24, but go back to the question after you read 24. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so, okay, of course, my phone is spinning. Okay. Won't even let me cancel. Ah,
Okay, so while I turned my phone off because I know I'm going to have a place, but let's see if I can get it. But I really want you to read it.
okay. Uh, let's try it again. Let's try it again. Chapter is not available in the, oh, on my let me just get it in. Never mind. Amos 5 message. Okay. In verse 24, you said?
Uh,
23?
5:21 to 24.
Okay. All right. So this is Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24, reading from the Message version of the Bible. And it reads like this: I can't stand your religious meetings. I'm fed up with your conferences and conventions. I want nothing to do with your religion projects, your pretentious slogans and goals. I'm sick of your fundraising schemes, your public relations and image making. I've had all I can take of your noisy ego music. When was the last time you sang to me? Do you know what I want? I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I want. This is the word of God from the Message version of the Bible. Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. What's the
So
question?
imagine how convicted I felt. I just had it together, but when the workshop leader, Dr. Ulysses Moyer, told us to read Amos 5, I didn't know anything about the Message Bible then, but once I got a hold of it, I turned to that. And when you think of it, when was the last time you sang to me?
Wow.
There's nothing to say behind that.
No. Mm.
So that could be a good guide
Wow.
or how we can go back as we start going back into our sanctuaries. When was the last time you sang to me? When was the last time you worshiped me?
Mm-hmm.
Your ministries, what do your ministries do that point out me? You know, Pastor, yeah, but people think that, well, I don't care what they think. said if I had a church, which that's not my dream, but if I had a church, I would do things very differently. First of all, my first Sunday would be the traditional Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They're white and all that, and everybody have fellowship together. We're going to have specific cooks in the kitchen, though. However, before we go for communion Sunday on the first Sunday, the day before, people would have to go to the ought room. If you have an ought against your brother or your sister, I'll have cotton balls in there and paper pillows or whatever. But before you take communion, y'all got to hash it out. That would be my first Sunday. My second and my third Sunday would have everything to do with ministries of the community, civic ministry. What's going on in the world? What's going on in the country? What's going on in the state? What's going on in the city? What's going on in the church?
Right.
I would have a hospitality ministry, and I don't mean just giving me flowers on a day or something like that. When you take the flowers off the altar or out of church, go to a hospice, go to a veterans hospital, go to a rehab center where people who are yearning for company. You would use, if you are a nurse, you're going to do more than have a cape and a hat and a fan.
Right.
You're going to understand CPR. Usher, you're going to understand what it means to usher. Now, people would have to understand their ministry and understand their ministry in the way that makes the church live. So people would know exactly who you are and where you're from. Every ministry would be central to the church. On the second Sunday, I would have whoever the president is of whatever ministry, about 2 or 3 presidents, they would get up and talk about what they did. And they would use the gift of their ministry to bring people to church. It seems to me right now that we're using our gifts to chase people away from church. Woo. And I had a pastor say to me, Harding, how would you feel if people went to your church and said, nah, that ain't the Jesus I want to meet? So on my second and third Sundays, you want to be president, you're going to work at that. And you're going to report to the congregation based on what probably for that month. And you have 2 months to make a difference. If not, there's always the person next to you called next. My fourth Sunday would be the young people's Sunday. And I don't mean no offense to child preachers. No offense at all. But I would not have children up there snotting and carrying on, talking about something that they have no understanding about. Mm-hmm. My children would have lectionary. Now, I've had my problems with the lectionary because I want to do what I want to do. But to give them order, you have the child go to the lectionary, give a children's sermon from their point of view, and after worship service that morning, stay back a good half an hour and have dialogue with that child. This is what you said in your sermon. This is what you preached about. Not only will that help that child, but when that child goes to school, reading comprehension and all that I flunked, by the way, but I made it right now. Notice I did not say anything about a choir.
Yeah.
The congregation will sing first, second, and third Sundays. Of course, I would have youth ministry on the fourth Sunday. Fifth Sunday, whatever is in that lectionary, that's where the mime ministry comes in, the liturgical dance, not praise dance, because every time you get up there and fiddle around the not a praise dance, the choir would sing the message. The message would come through the sacred arts. So when would I have time for baptism and Bible study and all that? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So there are different ways to do different things. We just have to not be afraid of change.
That's right.
We don't have to be intimidated by someone who might know a little bit more. If you're the smartest person in the room, then that's you really need to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, because that's how your ideas grow. And so to answer your question, how can we do something different? Same message. Let the message and whatever is going on in that church point to the Lord. And I guarantee you, if the Lord is the focus of our worship, stuff you don't have to worry about.
Mm, wow. Let me ask you, Dr. Harding, how have pastors received this message that you just shared with us?
You mean like last week?
Yes, because I left. I mean, I didn't get a
I
chance to
was
finish it.
shocked. I was shocked. I mean, I had calls. Uh, Washington texted me twice to tell me that he was still getting texts. Vice President Taylor told me that people were texting him. And then I've had some calls from people who were not even pastors, but they were on the line. And one person is studying to be a pastor, and he wanted to know, when are you going to have this pastor summit? Because I need this. And
Amen.
I had a pastor say, you've said things to us that we've been afraid to ask, or we have held it against other people for saying it to us.
Mm,
And my comment was like, look, I don't have anything to lose. But like we said prior to me coming on tonight, I would rather say what I got to say than to get to where I should have said what I should have said and somebody suffers for it.
right.
And above all, I don't want God saying, but I assignment. So if I really believe in what I'm doing, aren't I supposed to let God worry about me and me just do what God tells me to do?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I hope I answered your question.
You did, and I'm glad that you had such a positive response. And they reached out because, like one told you, I've been wanting to ask this. And I think sometimes we're just under so much pressure to, as you said before, maintain the status quo, and we're afraid of the change because change hurts, right? It's going to hurt somebody. It's going to hurt something. And if that thing is our sensitivity to the way it's always been done, we're not always ready to risk those things that should be.
Yeah, but Pastor Debbie, I would rather change hurt me than the status quo kill.
Whoop, well, I love that. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I believe, to me, why your ministry, your leadership is so transformative is because for a long time you have been trying to teach this message,
Mm,
you know, and you weren't being heard
mm,
largely. There's always a me, there's always a this one or that one who says, yes, that makes so much sense. You're opening my mind so that I can go deeper with the word of God. And and this is not bashing anyone. I just think that sometimes we are afraid of change. I'll never forget. I had the best church administration pastor professor when I was at New York Theological. I'm sure he's no stranger to you and many of the others who may be listening. Reverend Dr. Arlie Griffin of what's the name of the church? Berean Baptist Church, formerly. I guess he's emeritus now. He taught us in what I believed was the most significant class, and it should have been a full semester, but it wasn't. But I learned so much. He just sort of gave us like a timeline for pastors. And I'm sharing it because a lot of times people really are hard on the pastors because they should just get in there and they should do this and they should do that. But he was like, you first of all going to have your cake ministry people. The cake ministry people are those people, and I'm paraphrasing like I put a few up there. The cake ministry people are the ones who come to make sure that the pastor and his family are okay, taken care of. They bring you food, but they also sit down with you and they'll have cake and coffee or tea with you. And while they're sitting down having cake, coffee, or tea with you, they're letting you know about sister this, brother that, all the people who you, as the pastor, need to look out for.
mm,
And when he said look out for, they meant watch your back. So he said it takes a pastor approximately 5 years for that church to become quote unquote his or hers, right? Where they can really now begin to shape and work the vision that they believe that they've gotten from God. Now, many of the pastors that you and I know, they have been pastoring for a very long time. So they are far beyond the 5 years, right? The 5 year point. They're far beyond that. And many of them, I mean, he at the time had been there for many, many years at his church as well. He was speaking from experience. So I said all of that to say, because you mentioned a couple of younger pastors who were present there. I think that the congregation, they don't know all that pastors have to go through, even to roll out their vision. They could have sat with the pastoral search committee and shared that full vision, which included the music ministry. And the people were like, yes, yes, yes. But once he or she became the actual pastor, well, not pastor, we did say yes, but we don't want to make too many changes too quickly. And so sometimes they don't feel at liberty to implement the things that God has told them that he would have them do. Like this wonderful matrix you just gave us for how you would do each church Sunday, each Sunday. So what do you say to a young pastor who may be in that 5 year period of honeymoon, right, with the congregation? And what do you say to the more seasoned pastor who, coming out of that 5 years, was sort of beaten down, but nevertheless, he or she remained committed to the church people? And how do they refine their voices?
For the younger pastor, in that 5 year time, observe and remember the people that brought him or her in. Gradual change. Sometimes you cannot afford to have a gradual change. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. With the seasoned, the answer is the same. Remember your why. Why are you doing this in the first place? And if your why motivates you, then maybe that's not what you should be in.
Ooh.
You need to talk, and every now and then you do a survey. And you can't go everywhere expecting people to like you and go along with you. Why were you brought here as the pastor? And as that pastor has to remember the why, they also have to ask the congregation, why did you bring me here?
Right.
Here is the but. And with me, you back in the other direction. Pastors are afraid also. That's their salary.
Yeah.
Many of them have made friends. Many of them have made enemies. But then again, that's where the lonely road starts. That's that road that you're going to have to really get into your why to find out, because wait, now that are committing suicide.
Yeah.
And resigning.
Yeah.
And I keep going back to but why? And I think everybody has to have a dose of their why. Why did I get in this thing in the first place? And then, do I trust God or not? That's something that I ask myself all the time. And then, what do I expect my to have walking out the door? Do I talk to them? Or do I keep myself surrounded by armor bearers so nobody can get to me? People, especially in the Black church, we still like to shake pastor's hand, even though we might have to do it with a glove. The churches, Menity said, young pastors must learn the church. It's history. That's the observation period.
Yeah.
It still goes back to understanding your why. Now, if you're going to go in there to change things your way, then maybe what you said during that search committee meeting wasn't the truth.
Wasn't the truth.
And if you came in on a lie, you're not going to stay there too long,
That's
one
right.
way or another.
That's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
history, with regardless season, whatever, it still goes with the why.
Yes, yes,
Do
yes.
everything you can to make that why a meal. So if you really get into that why, you're going to learn the history of the church. You're going to learn what Sister and Brother Jojo and Aunt Jane did while they were here. It will give you vision, if you have a vision, if you didn't lie, for what you want to do year by year, 3 years, 5 years.
Right.
And you cannot be afraid. I can tell you about fear, but you can't.
Hmm. You know, and I like that last line that Dr. Stephanie wrote there. She said the previous pastor is still their pastor until you win them over. And I know some people say win them over. It's the church. They belong to God. That's the
Mm-mm,
truth.
mm-mm,
She's
mm-mm.
telling the truth. You know, that is the tenor, the tone of a pastor going into a new church. Let
Well,
me
let me add.
go on. Mhm.
For me, I ain't gonna call you pastor till you've earned it.
All right. Well, there's a lot of people who feel that way.
You don't come in, I'm pastor so and so. They voted you and they don't know you yet.
Right. I want to use the St. Luke example again because it's unique, right? Um, St. Luke Baptist Church in Harlem, everybody, where we, Dr. Harding's father pastored, as she just told us, for 53 years, the longest time in the history of that church. And some may not be familiar with her dad because his the one who preceded him was the Reverend Dr. Johnny G. McCann, and he had a bigger than life reputation throughout the country and in other parts of the world. Um, I came to know about St. Luke Baptist Church as one of his interns when I was in seminary. I sat under his tutelage for an entire year. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. I didn't, I don't think. But as often as he opened his mouth about the history of St. Luke Baptist Church, guess what he did? He mentioned your dad. He mentioned Pastor Harding. So I'm talking to his successor,
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Shane Hilliard. And I said, wow, how do you continue to honor the legacy of Dr. McCann while now pastoring under the vision that God has given you? And he also brought up your dad's name. That's how I found out about your dad's birthday, because he went back also to how Pastor McCann always honored your dad as his predecessor. And I think that you're going to always be blessed when you do that, when you honor the person who's come before you. And you don't really have to worry about when it is that the people accept you. But I do want to add one element that I think may be unique in some ways. And I don't know if they were there when your dad was the pastor, but two of the leaders at that church, two of the most wonderful people I have ever met in church, and they are the Cofields. Were they there, Deacon Cofield?
Deacon Cofield was determined to be an usher.
What? That's all he wanted?
He told me many times I was happy to be standing at the door because I could be first out of the church when service was over. He said, "Your father," and we would always laugh. And he said, even imagine himself at the front. And then his wife also worked along with him. You have people who are faithful to the mission and the vision of the church. You
Yes.
have people who are not afraid to change and work with the leader that they are under.
Right.
And you have leaders who are secure enough within themselves to not forget the show brought them to where they are.
Yeah. And that's what every church doesn't have. But the Cofields, that's Deacon Cofield and Deaconess Hannah Cofield, they made the transition for Pastor McCann from your dad as seamless as they could as leaders. And they have done the same thing with Pastor Hilliard, according to what he's saying to me. Every church leader in terms of pastors may need, and that's what I said to Pastor Hilliard, a deacon and deaconess co-fill in their lives, because it makes understanding and learning the history of the church easier, because they are a part of the foundation of that church. People come and go. We all come and go. People die. And all churches have not been blessed with those type of people. And so sometimes pastors pastor or lead in isolation, because they're also battling the leadership, even though it was the leadership that put together the pastoral search council committee to bring that person on. And when they actually start working with them, it does become a battle for power. How does all of this relate to the music? It all relates to the music because, listen, pastor could have spent hours preparing his or her sermon, but has to get into the church, can't actually do what you said do, remember his or her why, can't focus on the Lord like Amos 5:21-24 tells us to, because he or she may be battling these little fires coming at them from the leadership. And then they may also be battling with the musicians for whatever reason, because perhaps they haven't chosen properly. That leads me to what I did hear you say last week. I think you gave 3 types of ways to call forth a leader for the music ministry. Can you share that with us? Am I right? Was it 3?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share that with us, please?
There are 3 types of music leaders, generally speaking. And let me preface this. It is not the music. So when pastors say the music, something is wrong with the music, no, it's not the music. It's who you have selected to bring them. And so the 3D theory that I gave you about decide if you have a music ministry or music department.
Okay.
Discern the type of leader. Determine whether it's a music ministry. Determine whether it's a music ministry or department. Discern that it's compatible with you, and then make the decision. Now, this will lead me up to answer your question. What is the difference between a music ministry and a music department? A music ministry is God-focused. You have a congregation, not an audience. Everybody is coming with the spirit of one accord. While you look up 2 Chronicles 5:11-14 before we close out. And so if you have a music that meets the needs of the people, meaning spiritual needs, music does so much for us, against us, but for us. And music, as Dr. Mapson has said, is also the bloodline of Black folks' worship service. So you have the congregation. The music is meeting the needs of the people. Some people can go to church down, depressed, ready to commit suicide. After experiencing the response in worship, they can leave church encouraged, empowered. And you have a congregation. All right, that's the music ministry. The music department. I guarantee you 80% of the songs are commercial. Top 40.
Wow.
Okay? You have an audience, not a congregation.
Wow.
I'm coming in here with the choir gonna sing, entertain me, make me feel good. And oh, by the way, is included. So how do you know what type of music leader to bring in? You're going to choose a music leader who does this either as a job, a calling, or a hobby. If it's a job, they know what they're doing. They know how to put the voices together. They know the difference between the alto, soprano, tenor, noto, anyone, SIAs, sometimes I am, whatever voice comes out. But they know how to work. The majority of people who do this thing as a job, a lot of them, I'm not going to say the majority, but a lot of them, they work in other venues where this is what they do. They don't care about the spirituality of the people. Just let me do what I'm supposed to do. Give me my check, leave me alone, and I'll see you again. Then you have those who do this as a calling. I already know without a shadow of doubt that if I was not behind the instrument, not on the road here and beyond, I know I would be the pastor of the church. So what do? I use the music to help introduce Jesus Christ to the people. I use the music in a way that a pastor will use his or her sermon.
Right. Right.
Then you have those who do this as a hobby.
Hmm.
They might play at Jenkins Baptist Church, but if Harding Church offered them $5.99 more, by Jenkins Baptist Church, I'm going down the road because I'm getting $5.99 more. Here's the catch. When a person who does this as a hobby is tired of doing it, ain't no amount of money you can pay them because they're tired. They do it because they want to. And when they're tired of doing it, they're just not going to do it until they feel like doing it again.
Wow.
Those were the three.
Wow. A job, a calling, or a hobby. But I want to get that third. Decide if you have a music ministry or department. Discern if it's compatible with your vision. Is it?
Discern the type of, there are pastors that I have served with, not worked for, served with, that did not necessarily want the spirituality. Just do the music. Just do the music. I already know that I can't do that. I would get physically sick if I just do the music.
Right.
Because there's more that the Lord has assigned to me than just do the music. So one of us got to go. And being that I'm not the pastor, usually I will go into a church knowing when my exit date is, if it's not sooner.
Right.
Because we're not compatible. And when a person comes to a pastor, they need to also interview the pastor.
Yeah.
Just like the pastor. Why should this person go to your church and not the one down the street? Well, why should I come to you and no one and not someone else? And so if you have a pastor who just wants the music done and you are all about ministry, helping to shape the pastor's vision, getting songs that go with how the pastor is trying to move the church.
Right. Right.
If you all are not on that same wavelength, you got to go.
Yeah.
Does not want the person doing anything spiritual and you are about spirituality, you need to go. But if you have a pastor who is spiritual enough to not be intimidated by a person who can play, bring about the songs that match the vision, that's the one you want. However, to mismatch them would be a travesty for the congregation, because you have a pastor who just wants, but someone who is ministry minded, that's not going to work. But on the other hand, if you have a pastor that is ministry minded and a musician who just wants to do the top 40, that's not going to work either.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where that discernment comes in. And pastors cannot be afraid to ask questions. Now, I have a problem with pastors who expect their musicians to work and do not give them the foundation to do so. If I expect excellence from my music leader, I'm going to send them to some kind of training.
Yeah.
Get what they need to bring it back. Because if I keep them in these walls, they're not going to know what's going on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my whole thing is, for goodness sake, send them. I don't care if it's a 3-dayer. Send them to where they can have a conversation with you. After all, pastors go to conferences, pastors go to conventions. Why wouldn't you help the person who's supposed to be helping you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. Because otherwise your expectations are just, are you on
limited?
Are you on the music, the keyboard, or are you on the instruments and nothing more? And wow, I can tell you, as a small church pastor.
No, not small.
Well, I'm talking about the size, not the ministry or the vision.
No.
Don't use that.
There was a pastor who said that to me, and I understood exactly what he was saying. I said, yeah, but By you saying that this is a small church, you're saying that you serve a small God.
Oh, that's not what I meant.
There are churches that are small, quote, in size that have done mega, that mega churches can never, ever do.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So yes, I won't say that. But I know that the standard where you started tonight is the numbers, right? But I'll say this, knowing that a lot of other churches that don't have the numerical
Mm.
following, how's that? That many churches have. Sometimes, and this is not how I felt, but ultimately it was the result. Sometimes we'll feel a level of desperation just to have somebody on the organ or on the keyboard or on the piano, and they will allow in those hobbyists.
Mm.
They will allow in those hobbyists who not only get tired of doing the hobby, but can also wreak havoc within the spirit of the people of God. And that's unfortunate. And the power is not emanating from the Lord. It's all ego driven, and it's sad. It's sad and it's harmful to the spirit of God's people. And we have to take greater care so that we can have these transformative um, melding of the pulpit with those who are leading the music ministry. And I don't think that happens a lot. And I think it should. It's like what you said. Even if the person doesn't know exactly what scripture the sermon will be coming from, they should be so well trained. Like you said, go to a conference, hear what's out there, I like hymns, find in the hymns where it's going, um and find some symmetry between the music that is played and the message that is preached. That's just me
No,
saying
no,
that.
it's not. It's not you, Pastor Jenkins. I think that our pastors and the younger ones coming along, how else can we honor our ancestors? It didn't take a piano or organ. That's amenity. That's just where I'm going. It didn't or an organ for them to get messages, for them to have music. And it's the fear of not having the auxiliary musical accompaniment that pastors allowed to attack their minds first. Have you ever been in a congregation where there is no auxiliary instrumentation going on? Let me tell you this. There's a church in Wyandanch, New York, and I would go visit them from time to time. The pastor took me and said, Harding, I had to let go of my minister of music. That's another conversation. I let go of my minister of music. And I said, why? He said, I said to him, I need you to stay with me in case there is a shift. He was feeling a shift in the spiritual atmosphere even before he got to church. And sure enough, as it happened, he told the musician, minister of music, what he needed, and that minister played something entirely different. He fired him on the spot. That he just stopped everything and said, please give him his check. You need not come back. And let me tell you something, Pastor Jenkins, I would visit that church from time to time. Fine if they had an instrumentalist and fine if they didn't. But that congregation grew so strong because they learned to lean on each other vocally, which led to leaning on each other in other instances. How else can we honor our ancestors? They
Right.
didn't depend on anything but each other.
Right.
And I think we forget that.
Oh, I
There
think
was a pastor who allowed me every fifth Sunday we would do something differently. Well, one fifth Sunday we just decided let's just not have any of this. Let's just go back home. Do you know? I can't even explain it. The whole bonding, and I think that Black people have forgotten that we actually need each other.
yeah,
And what better way to see and feel each other's hearts, spirits, minds, and souls than to sing together?
just sing together. Yeah. I agree. I so totally agree. And Dr. Stephanie, you're absolutely right. Acapella. We do that often. And I'm in absolutely no hurry to do it any differently unless it will put the focus, as you said, on the Lord. Anything less is not honoring his request out of Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. I love that so much that you said that and shared that with us tonight. I hope that there have been so many church leaders and not just the church leaders, right? Because often if we or the laity comes into the place of worship, and I say place because everything is not steepled, right? But if even the laity comes in with their mind on the Lord, not worrying about where they'll sit, not even worrying about whether or not they'll sit, but just to be in his presence, that right there can shift the atmosphere for those who may have had some experience on their way, even including a pastor, and shift the attention back to where it belongs when we say we're gathering in the first place. And that attention, from what I'm hearing you say and what I believe in my heart, should always be on the Lord.
Well, here is the confirmation. I'm going to give you three things to think about. And then you can read Second Chronicles
Yes.
11 to 14 from the King James Version. We read, how do you know God is not pleased with our worship? And so, can I say, those in Facebook land, I want you to write these things down. HMMMM. These are moments of awareness that happen to you every day. Not necessarily in the consecutive order, but you do get these moments. So while you are thinking about how to go into your sanctuary, I want you to write HMMMMM. That means you got my attention. What are the things that get the attention of your congregation, of the people who serve with you? If they work with you, there might be some other agendas going on.
Mm.
And then the letters OIC. Pastors and leaders, you want your people to have an OIC moment, meaning I get it. And then the greatest moment of all of them is the agogic moment, AGOGIC. The agogic moment is synonymous to the seventh tone in any scale. In do re mi, it would be do re mi fa sol la ti. Whatever comes up there, do, you got to resolve it. So you think of an agogic moment as the moment to make something happen.
Mm.
You don't have time to think about it. Like if you were walking in the street and you saw a child getting ready to step in front of a bus and you know you can save that child, you're not going to ask anybody, should I do it? You're going to snatch that child. That's an agogic moment. And so as we go back into our sanctuaries, we need to think about our hymns, what do I get? But our agogic moment is how can we do this in a way so everybody is included? What are my people, my sisters and brothers, the people who are charged um, to my responsibility? What are they getting when they go out the door? Think of that circle. What have I done in between 2 and 3 to help them be ready to be able to receive that message so that whatever they have to face in the week, they will do that. Everybody needs to work toward that agogic moment. So, how do we have the agogic moment? When God is pleased with worship, you do not have to worry about anything because as God blesses you, you will see the results of that blessing. And that's in your Second Chronicles 5:11 to 14. Won't you read that for me?
I'm a slow student, y'all. I'm trying to type it so that anybody who does the replay, you will have up here definitely the Amos scripture and now Tell me if I got that right. 2 Chronicles 5:11-14.
Yes. The aim is from the Message.
From the Message. Yes, yeah, I put it up there. Wow. I don't know. I don't know what anyone else has received from your sharing tonight, but because many churches have returned and ours has not returned, I tell you, this is some excellent prep for me in preparation for the return. And I tell you one thing, if nothing else, there is a song that I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, remember that used to be sang. I don't know why we don't sing it anymore, but we've progressed and it's different. Get Right with God and Do It Now. Um, I love that song. It reminds me of how far I need to travel towards the grace of God and to remain in his presence and to seek his face and not anything that puts the attention on me and takes it away from him. So I am totally gratified by you being here, and you were still so gentle. And I know you have some stories that you can put into a book. And I'm not talking about your dissertation. You have some stories from across this country within the churches that you've witnessed, and even growing up watching your father as your pastor navigate some of these same waters. You are a treasure among us. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
You, Dr. Ouida Harding, are a treasure among us. That's why your colleagues, Dr. Stephanie, Juanita, Tara, that's why they're here, because they are honoring you like I'm honoring you. And I am so blessed to have you here, to take out your time to be here with me and the Blk Tlk family.
Well, Pastor Debbie, for the sister, those are some mighty strong sisters, and to talk with them. And when I say sisters, these are people I debate with. We don't disagree. We just don't think the same way. And we will call each other right then and there. Now, I would like to give something to you. I know you said small church and all that, and I get it. What would happen if small churches that cannot afford to send their music leaders anywhere, what would happen if they would combine and call in somebody to talk to them out with their issues, with their situations? Because people who go, they go to grow.
Right.
But you even grow more when you share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have the Dr. Minities, you have the Tara Brambles, even your sister.
Yeah.
So you have people, and there are people in New Jersey, Scott Cumberbatch, Kenneth Daniel. You have people in the community that were thinking not robbery to go, what do you need? How can I help you? And you always go into a situation investigating, explore it, and look to see how you can resolve it.
Love it. Oh, I love that idea. I love that. And
I just thought of it.
no, I love it. And I think look, I'm one of those, give it to me, meaning not asking for it to be free, but definitely leaning into the expertise of others. And I believe that there is power in saying, I'm not skilled in this area, but I heard that you are, or that I know you are, and I need help in this area. Can you help me? And I do that, and I would love to gather others to have the same opportunity to do that. I think this is not our usual time. I don't believe that the Lord allowed us all globally to go through this pandemic and come back the same way. I just don't. I sound like a broken record, but that's what I believe in my heart, And so that if that is what my assertion is, that means that I too have to be intentional and deliberate about first seeking him to find out, okay, if you don't want us to go back in the same way, then what shall we do? And that's found in the word of God. And then he will direct me to those people who will help make his vision clearer. I know I'm not alone, and I want to
You're
continue this
not alone.
conversation. And I'm so happy to have you here. I'm really so happy to have you here. And the two deacons from Faith at Work are here, so I'm sure they will get together on the side and start thinking, based upon what you shared tonight, how can I, as an individual, enrich the worship experience, not only for God's people who are the laity, but also for myself. That's what we should all be about. Dr. Harding, you get the last word.
This has been an honor. And I don't know what else to say other than know your why. Remember your why. And if God ain't in your why, you need to ask why.
I agree with you. And on that, Dr. Harding, don't go anywhere. I'm going to say good night to everybody and thank you all so much for supporting this wonderful woman who is our first celebrant for Women's History Month 2022. I am so honored to have Dr. Reverend Ouida Harding. And we didn't even get a chance to share all that she's done, her transformative dissertation, but she'll be back again. You'll see her again next week, just to tee it up. Come back. Because the other thing, aside from me saying, I know God does not want us to go back in the same way. One thing I've been paying attention to, and many of you probably have too, because in the green room, Dr. Harding was like, what is going on in the Bronx? There's a lot going on in the Bronx. A lot of it is spiritual, but we can't always say it's spiritual. And so we got to know there's some practical steps that we need to take. And one of them is the mental health issues that our people are suffering. And I'm going to have a discussion next Tuesday. Please come through, because somebody may just get the help that they need. But we're going to specifically talk about emotional trauma. And I'm looking forward to having this expert on with me next week, because people, there's no more Black family secrets. And I'm not saying anybody come here and share their dirty laundry. Just come and get the information so that you can then be directed to where you can get the help that you may need. And as pastoral counselors, unless you have the CPE training, we are limited as pastors as to how far we can go in supporting the congregation in a counseling setting. But every church should have some type of emotional, spiritual support system in place that people of God can get the resources that they need. Please come through next Tuesday, same time, 7:00, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so that you can be enriched and allow yourselves to be free. Good night. God bless you all. Come back again. Thank you all.